So first off, thank you for coming to sit down and chat with me. I know that you grew up in Texas, and I now live in Texas. But if you talk to me long enough, you could probably hear the Canadian in my voice.
Yeah.
One thing that really kind of jumped out to me is you guys obviously have many concepts, many brands, and it's continuously growing. And one thing that we see a lot from the restaurateurs that we work with is when you start moving from one concept to another concept, there can be hidden challenges that come with this new venue type, whether you're moving from fast casual to full service or Tex-Mex to bar, whatever it might be. How is that something that you guys like to balance as you expand? Like, is there lots of variables you like to work with, or is there a consistency layer that's held between all of the units that you guys operate?
I mean, we try to pull the consistencies. We started off with more upscale casual restaurants. So, we were on like micros and just because of all the data that we get from them was really good. But then over time, we evolved into casual dining with Super Rica. And then over time, we evolved into quick service, which is with Little Ray. So all three of those are a little bit different. So we're in the process of kind of juggling those three right now because some of them, different platforms work better for different things. For instance, Super Rica, we're the handheld at the table now versus, but we're not there at the full scale restaurants yet. So maybe we'll get there. I don't know. I'm seeing it a lot. And then Little Ray is just totally different. It's at the counter and it's fat and needs to be fast and some other little things. So we kind of have a mixture now. So luckily, I'm not the CFO. I can have a CFO and he can deal with all that kind of stuff.
So, and when you have like this mixture of full service, fast casual, QSR, all that, like you said, lots of different directions that pulls you into. Do you feel like having your kind of hands out in many different pots allows you to see trends ahead of time, or are you stealing something from your QSR space and bringing it into the full service? Like, is that something that you see bleed through the organization?
Yeah, I'd say for the most part, we're kind of bleeding through our full service into QSR.
Okay.
We feel like there's just so much content out there, so much content meaning, options for people to go out to eat. So it's like, how are we better than everyone else? How can we bet? And a lot of that's just with service and approachability or whatever it may be. That's kind of how we've done things. It started off on a higher end and then just kind of moved into a little bit more, hey, come in flip flops and shorts, and that's fun too. So.
It's so funny. Like you think about restaurants and it's such a wide spectrum, right? One of the things that I think is super unique that I've seen a lot of with the groups that we work with is like service is important at every single level of the restaurant industry, right? And like a lot of the times it's going to be cheaper for you to, let's say, go to a grocery store and get these items yourself. But even if you're going to get like a, $10 burger and fries, it's still a level of service that people are choosing to purchase. And the big thing that I've seen, especially with some of these, fast moving QSR restaurants, is like the ones that optimize for service really end up scaling revenue. I'm sure you guys have seen something.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I noticed when we first opened Super Rica, because we were coming from, high level of service to a fast paced, high volume. And we stood out, we stood out amongst the casual because we were executing at a higher level.
Yeah.
And that's what we're trying to bring down to Little Ray. I hate to say down, but it's more across.
Yeah.
Especially with like people tipping on a screen at a countertop. You know what I mean? Your counter service, and then you ask for a tip. It's like, all right, we got to be really careful. Like we got to really be above and beyond because people are going to get pissed. Why am I tipping? What am I tipping for? So that's where those different levels of service really comes into play.
How do you invest in service, let's say at that QSR space? Like, what does that look like, whether it be from a, training perspective or tech perspective? Like when you look to invest in a better service at that kind of fast moving environment, what does that mean to you?
Yeah, for me, I mean, I looked at, even when we were first developing it, I knew we have tacos and, Mexican stuff, which obviously goes into margaritas. So, and typically in a quick service environment, typically you don't even have alcohol. And now we have alcohol. And I'm like, all right, what if someone buys a margarita and then they want another one, but there's a long line and they don't want to get in that line anymore. So we created a whole nother section called Uno Mas, which is like, hey, one more. You can go right up there and get it, So, or we even have people circulating the room. Hey, can I get you another margarita? Or we have even that little code on the table that people could scan and they can order. We intentionally don't have like food items other than only dessert, like soft serve, on that code so they're not jumping the line and ordering at the table, if that makes sense, So it's more about, hey, you want another margarita or you want some soft serve? It didn't melt because you got it at the beginning of service. There's little details like that.
Oh, I know exactly what you mean. Like there's a pizza restaurant around the corner from my house that do counter service, great pizza. It's called All Day Pizza in Austin. It's awesome. They serve incredible olive oil ice cream, like olive oil soft serve. I've never had it because the line's out the door and I'll go eat my pizza. And then I'm like, well, I don't want to order my ice cream at the same time because it's going to melt. It's soft serve, obviously. But I'm like, so I just don't do it. And now you think about like the average guest check is now reduced because they're charging like $9 for a,
Yeah. And we give out these, we when we first started, we had these little wooden coins, and when they ordered soft serve, we'd hand them the coin and they just bring the coin up to exchange it for their soft serve. So, we started from the beginning doing that. But I saw that in New York at Le Industry in Brooklyn. It's a slice shop, and they're known for their soft serve too. So, but I'm trying to remember, it's like, I had my soft serve before I had my pizza. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's weird.
And so I've never had it. Like I hear all these reviews, but I've never had it. My girlfriend, who I was able to convince to move from New York City to Austin with me, used to live around the corner from Le Industry. And I found myself in that line many times.
Yeah.
When I think about service though at the QSR space, like one thing that I think about is like a high turnover model where a lot of the times the business is built around how fast can get people in and out and provide a great quality experience in that time. But ultimately we're trying to keep a condensed amount of time to just keep the turnover. But if you're serving alcohol, I would assume that a level of this is like, we're trying to also have people sit here and enjoy. So walk me through a little bit about that decision about maybe extending the average time that a guest is in the restaurant, because you're not only going to be doing, tacos, we're going to do beers or margaritas and then maybe ice cream. Is that something that you've considered about actually lengthening the average guest tabletop time?
Yeah, I mean, I say we're okay with it. For the most part, I haven't seen it be a problem. Occasionally you got to slow down the line a little bit.
Yeah. Meaning
go from, one register to two registers to speed it up, or go down to one register because there's no seats.
Yeah.
A lot of it, what we see with Little Ray is that it's more family friendly. So parents are drinking margaritas while kids are running around going crazy. So, we try to have and whenever we find a location, like, hey, where can the kids run and go nuts while the parents can drink? And that's a thought thing we think through before we even open the restaurant.
Yeah.
So
there's, I think about it because for someone like myself, I love going to restaurants because I love the entire experience of it. Like, I also love going for ice cream. Going to ice cream is like one of my favorite childhood experiences, and even today as an adult, it's one of my favorite things. Like the event of going somewhere and not having to be there for 2 hours, let's say, like I would if I were to go for people, is like quite alluring to me. Like I can go get a great experience in 30 minutes, 40 minutes. And so the few restaurants I've seen, like this one, All Day Pizza, where it's counter service. You walk over, but you're not like in and out in 15 minutes the way you might be if you ate at In and Out. Like there's a reason.
Right.
I think there's such massive space for that right now in the restaurant industry. They're like, hey, you're going to come in, you're going to get great service. You might not be here for an hour and a half the way if you went to like a full service Italian restaurant. You're going to come here for 30 minutes, 40 minutes and have a great experience. Like you're going to enjoy yourself. There's going to be a memory here. The music's going to be nice. We're going to have people walking around filling up water, whatever it might be. Just that extra level of service to make it so that like this is 40 minutes I want to carve out. And for me, like, busy schedule, it's a great way to go catch up with a friend of mine, knowing that, hey, I got to get back to work or I have to do something. So I like that perspective on things.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's really interesting because you go into like a Sweet Green or you go into a Chipotle or whatever, and people are just kind of head down, shoveling it up, and then they're out. There's just no experience. So I think you're right. I mean, I think that 40, 45 minutes is kind of that sweet spot. It's fast enough for a break from work or whatever it's just enough time to catch up with somebody.
Yeah.
So that's a good point.
And it's not like a break the bank. It's very like low risk, low effort. Like, there's times where I'll come home come to my girlfriend and we'll be like, I don't want to make dinner tonight, but I also don't want to go out for dinner. But I like to have that medium ground where I'm like, sure, I'm willing, because of that too, I'm willing to spend a little bit more, right? Like, I'm going to get more out of it. And going back to something like hiring, if we can encourage an environment where there's still tips happening because service is being provided, then we're going to be able to hire better, train better, do all those things. And now we have a better product being served as well. That's the way I see it, at least. Would you agree with that? Am I heading down the path that you see?
No, I think that's so true. I get nervous when I see people with articles about, hey, why am I tipping at this counter? And what people don't understand is just, I don't think a single restaurant can change the tipping culture in America. It's like, I've had an argument, I know, with my uncle one time, or we were actually on the same side, but he was like, he hates it when people add in these auto gratuity or whatever, but it's kind of the culture of the restaurant industry. What we are set up where, people don't make a ton of money. So it is. So when you can put tips in there and then they can all get these tips, it raises I mean, I think we have, counter servers or people walking around making $30 an hour.
It's amazing.
And that's a good wage, because people will cry on Instagram, hey, why don't you pay them a good wage? And it's like, no, they are. The structure is paying them a good wage, which people argue about. Now, if the whole country wants to decide to change the model all on one day, that's fine. But if you start doing this auto gratuity or whatever, or pay your employees more than $2.13 or $5 whatever an hour, that's just going to translate into the menu price, and then the menu price is going to go up, and then everyone's going to go reply on email saying, or on Instagram and say, hey, you're charging too much. I'm like, you know what? Come on. You know what I mean? It's like, so it's that whole big dilemma of how we do things versus how they do it in Europe. So,
yeah, I mean, my whole belief is like, if I've decided to go to a restaurant, I'm buying the food, I'm eating it, ignore the price, I've already paid for it. Like, there's 25% added on any number I see because I'm getting it either way. So let's not be upset about it. It helps somebody. Enjoy it. If you're getting fed up about tipping, don't go to a restaurant. But also, like, you go to a restaurant because you love the experience. That's why you go to restaurants.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I am curious. One of the things that I've spoken to a lot of operators about is right now we're at such a unique point in the restaurant industry because stuff like, let's say, technology and AI, what it's ultimately done is it's given access to expertise that previously was only available to large corporations that had giant budgets or large corporations that had a lot of data, right? Like, people don't talk enough about like this access to data that's now being provided down to even your 1 to 2 unit operator. Right now for you guys, like, how are you investing in that process right now to try to either expand the offering, find new opportunities, whatever it might be? Is there something that in particular you're trying to invest in to bring that on?
I mean, I'd say we're a little slow to the game. I mean, I remember we're just, we have some people who are diving into AI, definitely to kind of understand, hey, what's going on? How is our service? How is our food? And to really dive a little bit deeper into that kind of stuff, But for the most part, I'd say we're behind the times on that. We need to, I'm sure that's going to ramp up pretty fast. I mean, I do, occasionally I'll do work off the side with Chick-fil-A, and I see, you talked about, like, they basically had their own AI department, which was just a bunch of, very smart people from Georgia Tech, coming up with this stuff and all the data. And I assume AI is going to wipe out a lot of that, which is pretty amazing, So that's what we're diving in from more of a service point of view. It may even start finding its way into some sort of location analysis as well, because that's been tough. You pick a bad location, you just lost a bunch of money.
Yeah.
So, to help us in those areas, I think it's gonna be great.
Yeah. I don't. If you're talking about it, you're not behind, because
Right.
everybody feels behind because of how fast it's moving. But the reality is there's a lot of people talking about it because there's a lot of people selling it. Whereas, like, how are you using it is different. My perspective is like, you get into the hospitality industry, provide great service, great food, great experiences. Punching over numbers and working in the back office, that to me is like the best opportunity for AI to come step in, because I remember when I used to work at a restaurant in Toronto, walking past the chef's office, and there's just like a stack of invoices, and he's scanning through. There's like no way he's going through every line item on that, right? Like, it's 2 a.m. It would be great though if he spent that time like reviewing performance of the line. What could we have done better? Stuff like the quality. I see it as this unbelievably great way to be back as an operator, getting back to the guest. How do we get in front of the things that matter? And is there ways for us to, hey, more accurate P&Ls, better COGS reporting, better cash flow analysis? Can we get better at forecasting cash flow, stuff like that? That's where you get back into good service, right?
Yeah.
To me, that's where I see it going. And maybe I'm just ranting at you at this point, but
no, I think that's always the goal. My goal is like, how small can we make the office? Or do we need a chair in there? Do you need to be standing up when you do your work? It's like, whatever reason to get them back out on the floor is the goal. And if it'll help with that, I mean. And the analysis stuff is sometimes hard. I can kind of do that on my own, but restaurants are so busy. If they can have that stuff at their fingertips, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, completely. I think what's cool about restaurants that you see other industries is, and I'm sure I love your opinion on this. It is one of the most like high agency industries in existence, right? Where I remember my first shift working as a bar back, and they basically are just like, all right, go figure it out. And all of a sudden, I'm now responsible for stocking an entire bar, thousands of dollars. You just have so much in front of you that you're trying to manage without people really realizing the dance that's going on. What I think is cool is like, if we can find a way to get those people into those moments that matter most to them and out of the back office looking through invoices and stuff like that, the ability to raise great operators, I think, is where we see the most success. Like, can we have a back office that's like five people, super, super effective doing the things that they love? That's when we end up with a better product. I think the thing that most restaurants are looking at is like, how do I drive down my COGS? I can better service, better experience, and lower COGS. That seems to be the area that people are trying to get into.
Yeah. I mean, I think, and I think it could. I remember when we were growing, there was an argument about, hey, why don't chefs just send the whole invoice over to a department to handle that for them, to get them back in the kitchen? Well, I argued that for me, it was good that I went through those invoices. It was good that I had my fingers on things, and it forced me to see stuff. So we kind of compromised, and we did like, all right, we're still scanning it and someone else is paying for it and all that, but chefs were still, and beverage people were still having to code that in. But if there was a technology to keep your hands on it still, like a little bit more analog, I'd say, versus digital, it'd be good. Just to be careful that the pendulum doesn't swing too far.
Yeah.
So that people are unaware of what's going on and relying solely on some other data, which I don't know, could be good. I don't know.
Yeah, it's almost like you want to eliminate it's like you want to get to the formula, have it automate the formula, get to the result, and then move on, right? Like, you still need to do that. Like, you still are going to need to do inventory counts. I still need to walk in the fridge and see what's here. Now, help me project my PARs, because there's a bunch of like concerts that are happening around here, and I'm going to have more people come through, and I need to order more. Like, that could be a great use, but I still need to do that inventory.
Yeah. But if you could scan it into some AI of some sort, and it'll tell you, hey, you're 2% up on produce costs or whatever like that, you could probably spit that out pretty quick. That'd be nice.
Yeah.
Then rely on the chef to do their own math.
Well, the thing that we see is like, hey, let's say you're a taco shop like you guys, like you're probably looking at your protein pretty well and you're looking at your dairy pretty high, but are you looking at the cost of grocery bags, bleach, and
yeah, no way.
Right? Like, can we get that to be in front of the chef more frequently? Like, they're probably bonused on COGS. I know a lot of groups are that way. So, like, once again, getting back to like trying to put an operator into an opportunity to succeed, like, the better that we can help them get their COGS down, the more they're going to be bonus, the better the chef that we can hire, the better the restaurant will be.
Right.
But once again, like, I'd like to learn a little bit about like how you guys approach expansion. So like when you go into saying, all right, it's time, like I'm going to move into QSR from full service, fast casual, whatever it might be, like what is that impetus? Is it just like you wake up one morning and it's time, or how does that really come together?
I think it started from the very beginning. Before I even opened my first restaurant, I wanted to open something quick service, but finding the right location with the right parking and all that just didn't work. So I knew it was always on my mind. So then I had this idea of like, all right, well, we had this idea of let's open up, let's get all these fun ideas that I have in my brain that have been in my brain forever and open up all these upscale restaurants and build credibility as a chef and as a restaurant operator. Then when you do something super casual, you're already going to be, people are already like, okay, this is going to be good because it's from these people, that kind of thing, and what we found is that it definitely works really well in the city or cities that you're really dense in, and they know your restaurants. But if you pop into another city, and if people don't know you, it's hard. So I can really see the difference between a Little Ray that we open up in Atlanta versus a Little Ray that we open up in Houston or Nashville or something. Or Raleigh. It's like half the volume. So there's a lot of power to that. Taking it slow and build that credibility. I mean, you probably see it. You see all the Bobby Flay burgers and all this kind of stuff. It's like people think, oh, it's got to be good. You know what I mean? So
yeah. And sometimes it is, and
sometimes it's not. So
you walk through the Vegas Strip, and you'll see some pretty big names.
Oh,
like
right.
That.
Yeah.
I don't know if they know exists.
Yeah.
So, but specifically the finding a new location and choosing a menu into it, like what does that look like? Are you actively looking for all spaces and then finding the one that fits, or am I starting with an idea and then going to the process to look for a space that could fit that specific concept?
Yeah, I mean, we started with the idea, which worked out really well for us, is find a cool location and then backfill it with, hey, what's the right restaurant for this location? From anything from type of food to price point or whatever. And that really, really worked really well. But once you start wanting to scale something, then you're doing it the opposite way. It's harder, because you're limited to what's out there, so that's been tough, to find the spots, for us that have the right, you don't want to go in. I noticed that on the west side in Atlanta, there was a breakfast place here that's very local, and then all of a sudden a snooze comes in. Like, why would you do that? You know what I mean? I don't want to do things like that. I don't want to go into a place that's already doing tacos al carbone or whatever, and then just plop on the next corner. Sometimes it's just trying to be thoughtful and of others as well. We're all in this business together to support each other. So, but it's tough. I mean, it's definitely tough. And then the other thing is too, we like to go to, me being a chef and a creative, I love going into the cool spots, and the cool spots are generally the ones that are off the path, and, when you notice that you're off the path, it's cool, but your sales are a lot less than if you were on the path, you know what I mean? So, but it may not be as cool. So it's really that balance of it's got that, soul to it versus, in no traffic or no soul and high traffic. So it's trying to find that middle point.
I hadn't considered that, because to your point, like if you're going from Raleigh to Houston, they might not know you, right? It'd be the same situation of the concept. Like they know this concept, like the one that you're at right now, let's say, seems like that's really cool backdrop and stuff like that. That's whether or not people realize that's part of their experience. That's what they know. And so it's like how I've created this great moment and I want to replicate this. I hadn't considered the fact that you also need to replicate that entire environment almost every single time, maybe in a unique way, but in that same, like, to your point, soulful kind of way.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard, but and a lot of times there's developers that are really, at least currently, developers are pretty antsy to find restaurants to come in now, and so we can kind of lay it out there. Hey, if you want this traffic, I mean, this little array does 7 million, so, and that's out of whatever, maybe we're 4,000 square feet, which is pretty good, for that. And so if they want that type of traffic coming through their center, or they want that type of percentage rent, then they can make sure they design their area to not, to kind of compensate for that.
Definitely. Hey, 7 million, 4,000 square feet. That's it's pretty solid. Yeah. The chef in you, the creative in you, you said you like the cool spaces, right? Like, what is like in your mind, you close your eyes at night, you think of a cool space. Like, walk me through what that kind of is. Like, I know it's in my head right now. I'd love to see what's in yours.
Yeah, I mean, it's usually the old buildings, the old buildings with all the wood and whatever and the floors, and the spaces that you don't have to add much to it because they just they bring it out of the gate. We the Optimist in Atlanta was an old warehouse building. It has these massive metal trusses and wood slat ceiling, and it was like a barrel roof. It was like, I mean, we just had to put tables and chairs and banquettes, and we were ready to go.
Yeah.
So if the space can bring that soul, then we don't have to add that soul, because that soul costs a lot of money, especially with when you're talking those lifestyle centers, where you go in and these walking malls. I mean, that is very expensive to put in, soul. It's really hard.
It's nearly impossible because you have to build the soul over hundreds of years, right? Like, the walls got to talk. Have you ever been to Lucali in Brooklyn by chance?
Oh my gosh, I want to go there. I want to go so bad.
It's my favorite restaurant. My favorite restaurants in the world that I've been to. There's a couple really nice Michelin star ones I've been to, but I've had the best hospitality experience of my life at a Waffle House at 2 a.m. outside of Indianapolis, and then Lucali. Lucali was the only place I've ever been in my life. It's got that soul, right? It's like an old sweet shop from for hundreds of years, old brick oven. It's the only place I've seen college kids with a case of Miller High Life on their table. Two probably financiers with a bottle of DRC. This is, and they're playing 90s hip hop and classic rock. Like, this is, everything's candlelit. It's perfect. There's 2 things on the menu. You can't get more than that. But to your point too, like, it's hard to put the soul into a big new smart center, right?
Those big centers, I mean, they just have so much traffic flow. So sometimes you just have to bite. If you go in there, you just have to bite the bullet and be prepared. Hey, you'll do the traffic, but you got to put the soul in there.
How do you try to bring the soul?
I mean, the storefronts are the expensive ones. The ceilings are the ones that usually get value engineered out. So we've tried to figure out how to do ceilings. For instance, we went into, it was an old, this is for a Super Rico, it was an old Outback Steakhouse, one of the old ones. Okay. So we ripped out they had these drop tile ceilings, and we're like, okay, this has got to go, and then we opened it up and it had all that spray foam. And I'm like, and our development VP at the time was like, no, we can't afford a ceiling. I'm like, no, we cannot not afford a ceiling. So I told them, I said, just go to Home Depot and find these real thin little wood slats that look like really long rulers, and just kind of like, just glue it up to this across those trusses, and there you go. You got a ceiling, and then string the lights in between the little creaks. I'm like, how do you do it on the cheap? You just gotta, you gotta do it, early. I mean, it's like, people will go to a restaurant. I think I ask these questions a lot to people, and I'm like, and I'm very strategic about my question and answer. I'm like, hey, what do you think about that restaurant? And I know it's a restaurant that's got no soul to it. It's got great food. It's kind of cold,
Yeah.
and the feel. And they're like, oh yeah, it's great. I said, would you go back? Oh, I don't know. I don't think so. And I really think it has to do with, I mean, you said it at the very beginning, was experience. And
Yeah.
experience is a part of everything. It's a part of how it feels, the sound quality, the music you're playing,
Yeah.
the quality of the music sound that's
Oh
playing,
yeah.
the smell. Like sometimes, like I've been learning that sometimes we're putting our hood units are too good. They're sucking out too much of
The
the wood
smell.
smoke. You know what I mean? I'm like,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
let's choke this out a little bit so the smoke comes back out a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not that you want to smell like something when you leave the restaurant, but you want to walk in and you want to smell like someone's grandma's cooking or someone's
Yeah.
stoking a fire or something. I mean, you're in Austin, you know what that is. You don't go into it if you go outside a barbecue restaurant and you don't smell smoke, you go somewhere else.
Exactly. Well, I think people have this. It's very opposite to the way that I like to experience restaurants, which is like I don't like the super minimalistic, sterile. I feel like I'm in a hospital emergency room, waiting room, right? Like I feel the experience. For me, growing up in the Northeast in Toronto, and the two big, I'd say the three big culinary scenes I spent time in would have been Toronto, Montreal, and Quebec City. And if you've ever spent time in French Canada, they really take that stuff seriously. But it's always like, when I think of a restaurant, it's like I think of walking in and I want it to feel like it's lived in, right? Like I want to feel like it's just a little tight, but not too tight. Like it's cold outside and we're coming in and there's comfort there. You can see other people talking, and that gets you to start talking, and you hear some stuff in the kitchen that's not overwhelming. And I don't smell like a bloody restaurant. I don't smell like food. I'm here to eat, right? Like sometimes I think we lose that in this effort to be minimalistic and simple. Restaurants are anything but simple, and the experience is anything but simple. It's complex, it's beautiful, it's articulated in a million ways. Why aren't we into that? Smokehouses and barbecue spots do it great. Like you walk in, it's big, it's bolsterous, it's loud, and you're happy when you're there. And I think sometimes we can get away from that and almost lose it in the process, and that can be a shame for me. Sound quality is a good one. That's a big one that I look for. Don't give me bad speakers.
Yeah, no, and yeah. I mean, I also think too, when you deal with a lot of designers, like we were doing a new patio at one of our restaurants in Houston, and it's supposed to be a mid-price steak joint, and I had to just tell the designer, I'm like, okay, look at pictures of Marfa, Texas,
Yeah.
just picture you or someone in Marfa, and that's how you were going to design it, Someone in Marfa is not going to go properly curate these photos of art and properly place them on a wall. One of them's going to be bent sideways, one of them's going to be going the other direction. You know what I mean? It's like, it doesn't need to look like some designer curated this space. It needs to be funky and eclectic and cheap, and feel real. You want it to feel like the chef decorated it or somebody, who knew nothing about what they're doing. But it's kind of a big.
I'm thinking about the restaurants that I love, and I almost want to walk in, and the decor should tell the story of all the people who've ate there before me.
Yeah,
right? They're like, in certain circumstances, obviously. But when it's like perfectly curated, it's almost, I feel like I'm in a Subway. Like there's a really great pizza spot in Austin. I won't say which one, but the art looks like it's Subway sub art. And I'm like, guys, like just take a second here and like just go a little further. It really, and I haven't gone back. The food was good, but it just didn't like, I don't know, I'm paying $35 for pizza.
You need that whole experience,
Completely. Well, Ford, I appreciate you taking the time to sit down and chat. It really means a lot. I really enjoyed this. So thank you once again for sitting down and sharing this. Now is probably a good time as ever. I'd love for you to just tell a little bit about yourself and maybe a little bit of end of the conversation introduction.
Yeah. I'm Ford Fry. I grew up in Houston, Texas. Went off to college in Arkansas. Joined a fraternity. Didn't go to class, like most chefs, I guess. And then my dad said, "Hey, why don't you go to culinary school?" So I went off to Vermont to Necky. We ran this inn in Vermont, and it was exactly what I needed. I had no work ethic whatsoever, and it taught me to work long hours, clean the kitchen, We actually had to cook. It wasn't standing around a mixer and watching something mix. We had to actually do it. So I've always been a dreamer. I think that's probably why I wasn't good in school, because I'm always dreaming about things while I should be focusing on something else. But I kind of found my niche too. We have restaurants in Atlanta, Houston, Nashville, Raleigh area. Where else? Florida, Winter Park, Florida.
Gotcha.
So I love restaurants. I don't feel like it's a job for me. I feel like this is what I love to do. It's awesome. I don't know what else.
No, that's amazing, man. Once again, thank you. I appreciate you taking the time. We'll chat soon.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.